Hello, hi. Welcome to Wonderslut. Today I'm interviewing Mike Nasche. He is an old fashioned business consultant.
Yeah,
So you asked me to be super specific. So
super specific.
give us a specific intro into, I don't know, whatever you want, you feel is applicable to
Whatever
describe
to
yourself.
describe myself. Okay. Well, I think most people just do that with like giving themselves labels and titles with names and things like that. And I guess I'll go that way. So,
Okay.
all right. So,
I'm not a huge fan of labels,
that's my
but
point. Is I figured like,
it
I'm
does give
42 years old.
descriptive
I'm
words.
single. I'm live in Texas. Yeah. It does. I think it helps most people. So, I am a business consultant and coach for entrepreneurs with ADHD. That's what I do for a living.
I didn't know you had that specific niche, ADHD
It's
niche.
almost kind of a joke because it's like the opposite of a niche because almost all entrepreneurs
Oh, that's so true.
are at least somewhat neurodivergent. I think you're like 300 or 400 times more likely to be an entrepreneur if you're neurodivergent.
Oh, that's very
Um,
interesting. And I didn't know ADHD was labeled neurodivergent.
yeah, so I think there's like six or seven. There's ADHD, ADD, autistic, a few others. But the really struggle one is whenever you're a little bit OCD and ADHD at the same time. That's when it's feels weird being in your own skin. But anyway, see if I can still go back to answering your question.
Okay.
That is that
We're
is what
not
I
at all
do.
ADHD.
No, not even a little bit. This is going to be a lot of fun. Um, so yeah, business consultant and coach. I am a veteran. I've been in the Army for 24 years. Spent 8 years on active duty. Switched to the reserves. Started working on my undergrad while I was a reservist, and then went to grad school last year at Texas A&M to get my MBA, and that's how I got into consulting. I joined the graduate consulting club at Texas A&M, but then realized I knew when I went to get my MBA I didn't want to go back to corporate, but then I kind of got excited about being a consultant because it was like this kind of hot shot way to leave an MBA was to be a consultant, and I think my ego kind of got wrapped up in that, and I started interviewing with the McKinseys and the Deloittes and KPMGs, and then something hit me, and I'm like, I not only do I not want to go back to corporate, but that's like just corporate on steroids, and I wanted to use the skills that I have and the experience that I have to help small business owners, and so I wanted to take all the pro tips that people on Wall Street have and take it down to Main Street. So that's what I do for business is I help small business owners grow and scale their business, teach them how to use financial leverage and a lot of other cool things. So that's what I do for business. I'm a dad. I've got an 18-year-old son, 16-year-old daughter. And I think one of the reasons that we ended up talking is I'm a little unique, I think, in the way that I have this military background, this manly kind of man thing, but also leaning into the things that I don't understand anywhere near as much, or I don't know if any of us do. And I'm embracing this hippie vibe kind of thing that's going on, learning about the moon and the stars and the mystic and I'm really digging it.
Yeah.
It's I
So one of the reasons I
yeah.
reached out to you is because, I mean, as most of my followers are women, obviously. I do have a few men sprinkled in there, but mostly because they like to hate on me.
Oh yeah,
But when I
I love that. Yeah,
watched your stuff, I was like, I really like this dude. You have like this,
ant on. Sorry. All right, you like this dude? Keep
like a
going.
full hippie. I have an ant on me. Um, because you're just like in touch with your soul. You're more about like doing your inner work, and it's
Yeah,
very rare to find that in men. I think it's starting to trend that way. Thank goodness.
I
But
hope so. I hope I
yeah,
can
I called him
encourage.
woke this morning, and he didn't. You didn't love that term, so I would love for you to like.
Oh man, calling me out. Okay, woke. No, actually, no. I googled it and
I don't
I
know that
took a
I ever
screenshot.
used that word actually, but it just came out of my mouth this morning, and then your response was interesting. So
I feel like I'm quite self-aware compared to most men, especially probably most guys that have any type of a background like mine or experiences. Um, I know that there's so much that I don't know, and I'm embracing that. I feel like so many people are trying to convince other people that their way of thinking is right, and I'm like, bro, I don't know. Teach me something new. And I think maybe that's some of the vibe that you're getting is like, I want to show up more curious.
Do you think
And
you've always had that curious nature about you, or
no,
is this new?
no, this is new.
Okay, I want to hear about that. How you started on this path, where you like something went off in your head and you were like, "There's got to be more."
Um, okay, this will be a fun little journey. Um, my parents were never married; they were teenagers when they had me, and I think growing up, there was a part of me. I found a church youth group in middle school, and I really embraced that, and I felt like there was this way to do it right,
Mm-hmm.
and I was trying really hard to like, oh, it's as if my parents didn't do it right.
Right?
And I was like, okay, so I'm going to be the best, Christian that I can be. I'm going to follow what God says and what the Bible says. And if I do it right and I find the right woman and, we get married first and we buy a house and then we have children, all these things, I thought that would give me the life that I wanted. Um, and part of that was just having a mom that, as amazing as she is, I saw how much she struggled being a single mom and trying to provide. And I wanted a stay-at-home wife that was going to be this amazing mother to our children. And for some reason, that's what I thought life was supposed to be like. And I became very rigid in a lot of my views and my thinking, and spent many years in that. And then about 10 years ago, after being married for 11 or 12 years, went through a divorce, and that like for a lot of people, it rocked me, shook my beliefs. I would still say me and Jesus are boys, but me and organized religion, not so much. I felt like there were a lot of amazing people in these churches and in these communities that, um, meant well or meant the best. And I think maybe the lens in which I was viewing the world of trying to do it right maybe skewed some of these things. But anyway, it was a book by Vishen Lakhiani. Do you follow him? He runs Mind Valley. Vishen Lakhiani wrote a book called The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. And I first came across it probably on an Instagram reel or something where he was talking about how to become unfuckwithable. And there was this meme, where they have the word, then the definition under it with some pretty picture in the back, and it says unfuckwithable. And it's how, I don't know, someone can look it up. It's how to not let anything bother you.
Yeah.
And it really resonated with me. And I found the link, bought his book. And that was chapter 9, was how to become unfuckwithable. But right out of the gate, he's leading with this idea that where, when, and how we grow up kind of define a lot of things in our life. And he called them rules, a word that he made up for bullshit rules. And I realized I have all these bullshit rules in my life that I was going along with. And in this book, he kept challenging me to think, does this belief serve me?
Okay, give me an example of that.
He used the example, he grew up Hindu, and cows are sacred. And he's, at this point, a young man, a boy in school, and all of his friends were eating McDonald's hamburgers. And he wanted to eat a hamburger, but his mom said they couldn't because they were Hindu. And he challenged her enough that she finally gave in and let him try it. And it was underwhelming, as you could probably imagine. But he had this moment where he's like, oh, well, are all these rules this way? If I challenge my mom enough, can I, how solid are these things? And he started talking about, if it's not true for all people in all places at all times, is it really truth?
Okay.
Right?
Say that again.
If it's not true for all people in all places at all times,
yes,
is it really truth? And that was like, oh my goodness.
Oh man, that changes everything.
Dude,
because
yes.
What is true for all people in all places at all times?
And so now I'm questioning everything. And I'm also, still in the emotional throes of the divorce and
Grieving the
grieving.
death of your previous self, all your expectations,
yes, you
your
get it.
ideas, totally just collapse.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
It was wild how I'm reading this and I'm like, dang, I need to like rethink everything. And he challenged me through his book in a way that made me feel like it was okay to challenge these things, because so many of the people, again, probably very well meaning, it was, if it's not the Bible, if it's not what we teach in our Southern Baptist denomination of this church, then it's the devil.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized later in life, like there's like 30 something different denominations of Baptist.
Mm-hmm.
And those are all just different interpretations of, oh, well, they think it's wrong to dance and they think it's not okay to drink alcohol, or it's okay, but as long as you do it at a wedding, like just, they felt like rules. And
it really is just like groups of people that have similar beliefs that get together.
Yeah. And so
that's what denominations are.
I just realized that I was living my life with all these rules, and that it's like he gave me permission to question all these things. Because I remember, and not long after that, I dated a woman who was also a Christian, but she was super into yoga and meditation, manifesting, and all of that sounded like the devil to me.
Right.
You know, it's like that. Yes. I don't know if you saw that scene with the water boy and his mom. She's like, foosball is the devil. Like and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm like the water boy's mom over here. Where I grew up with like people like that in my life saying,
yes,
no, there's not meditation. It's prayer, or this idea of, chakras and all that stuff. If it was mystic, or if it wasn't Southern Baptist Church teaching from, that particular pastor, it was wrong. And I was like, wow.
Which Eastern religion has been around since the beginning of time.
Yeah. So
right?
all of these things.
That's where it all originates from.
And it's funny how we make that sound like that's the weird stuff.
It's so crazy to me. And I'm like, you think maybe they got it?
Yeah.
Like they didn't need a church or the Bible to find God.
Do you think maybe, all the things that we're dealing with have something to do with these, big pharma corporations trying to influence, medicine and all this other stuff? So that's how it happened.
They need you to believe that you need them.
Yeah. I heard somebody say recently, they're like, if your doctor, is prescribing some medication before talking about your lifestyle and your diet and how much sunshine you get and all these other things, it's like, you don't have a healer, you have a dealer.
Oh,
that's good, right?
Oh man,
you don't have a healer, you have a dealer. And I was
that lands.
And I've been going through the VA for over a dozen years, and they're real quick to give you all the meds. Oh, you must be suffering from PTSD. Maybe it has nothing to do with all the other chronic stuff that you're
sitting inside watching TV on a screen most of your life.
Yeah, and just
eating processed food. You don't go outside. You're not in nature.
Yeah, all these things. And I'm like, oh yes, I must need this pill, as if my body is missing something that's inside this. But no, that's not that there's not good, places for some of those things. But anyway,
the disease is dis-ease.
Dis-ease. So
in your soul.
To answer your original question, that's what happened to me, is the loss of identity of myself put me in a place of curiosity and willingness to be open to other ideas. And then I found some people like Vishen Lakhiani in his book, and then I just kept digging more and more and more. And then also I started dating cooler chicks. I mean, and it was women like that one that just...
Explain that to me. What does that mean?
I'll get there. So not that my, ex-wife isn't a wonderful human being, but we just don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. And I started dating women that were more into things like the mystic, and it opened up my eyes to that might not be what I thought it was. And that's where I was going with this one thing, is that first woman that introduced me to that idea of, like, I went to a yoga studio with her once, and there was this really amazing, her life coach that was, leading the thing. And I just had that first experience in doing hot yoga. And the only thing that really felt weird to me was like the ohms. That felt a little bit like, God might be mad at me for this. But everything else was just like, I loved it. And then I got to the point where I'm like, maybe this is all interwoven or interconnected, and I don't know. Then the ideas of
And how long ago was
manifesting
that for
things.
you?
Well, less than 10 years ago, I guess. And that stuff just really changed my life. And that's what set me on this path, as I realized, because she was a Christian and also believed this idea of manifesting and this spirituality. And it's a different way of connecting to the same energy source. And I was just like, anyway, it weirded me out at first. I was afraid to lean in. And then that book, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind, was enough to be like, let me challenge everything I think I know and all the things I believe. Let me see what serves me and what doesn't. And if it doesn't, maybe it needs to go.
Well, what a gift it is to your kids also to see you go through that. Like a man that truly steps up to the plate. And I do find that so many men are stuck in this idea that they have to be this macho dude who doesn't experience emotion or doesn't experience any kind of discomfort, maybe even like they don't have it figured out. And why is that so challenging to men?
I think I know. I think it started with Hollywood. Hollywood has told us that men don't need other men. And I think if you want to get really, off the rails on it, I think it's intentional to separate us from community and, you know, destroy the thing that is, anyway. Uh, John Wayne, John Rambo, and, John McClane, like these guys, it's like they didn't really need anybody else. They could do it themselves versus this idea that men need other men. And uh, whenever we come together and we are able to support one another, hold each other accountable, and this is not just men, but we're talking about men in this scenario, we're dangerous in like the best way possible to a society that doesn't want us to be. Like we can, protect, we can take care of. And I think there's so much there that if we can, as men, dip into this, not just sensitive side. It's like, I feel like the more I learn about the human condition, the more empathy I have for other people. Like I was even reading in my inner work today. It's like when something triggers you, when you feel this discomfort in you, like someone has given you an opportunity to, why am I feeling that way? What's going on in my life, or what have I experienced in my life that is doing that, as opposed to that being the issue? I used to think I didn't have an anger issue. I thought other people just needed to stop pissing me off.
Hmm.
I thought they were the problem, not me. And I realized, what is it about their energy or what they're doing that's digging up something that I needed to work on? And that was the inner work that needed to start happening.
It really is a distraction. And that something just triggered in me when you were talking about I don't know what you said, but I thought gender is just a distraction, that you have been taught that you are a man before you're a human being, and which is not true. You're a human being first. How you express yourself in gender is irrelevant. Of course, it's, nature and all the things, but you're still a spirit. You just happen to be in a masculine body at this time. Does that make sense to you?
I don't know. I'm trying to let that soak in because my initial
We're all
feeling,
just like
my initial
energy,
feeling was like,
bodies of
no, I'm a man.
energy. Right. And so it was a distraction. Women are meant to be in the home and the caretakers of all of society. And men are supposed to be detached and strong and untouchable almost.
No, I think I might disagree a little bit.
Okay.
I completely agree that we are human first. And what the funny thing that made me think about this is training dogs, and I'm about to compare people to dogs. Yes, I think it was Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer, talked about the way people treat their pets as if they're this, this is fluffy. They're a
Supposed
little
to
dog, right?
perform.
And it's like, first of all, uh, that's it's not just your dog, but he goes backwards. It is particular breed. It is a particular gender. It is a dog. It is an animal.
Mm-hmm.
It is all of these things before it is your pet. And to think about it that way is kind of what was going on in my mind. So,
Okay.
so let's take that to us.
So gender is the last expression.
Perhaps. Well, no. The specific identity that we as the pet owner put on that animal as
Right.
they belong to me or they're in our home. But yes, gender was the last piece.
Yes.
So I had a boxer, and anybody who has had boxers know that there are a lot of, you can just about any breed, but there are a lot of things that are very boxer-esque about their behavior and personality. But even a male boxer versus a female boxer, they are very unique, where most female boxers behave this way, where most male boxers behave this way. And it's not constant, it's not universal, it's not every one of them, but it's enough to where anybody who has had that, and you can probably fill in with any breed of somebody who knows a particular breed well, like, oh yes, some behave this way and another. And I think masculinity and femininity is more of a spectrum, whereas gender is not. But a man can fall anywhere on that spectrum of masculinity and femininity without not with and still be a man, and the same thing for a woman. So I believe that, and maybe it's even fluid for things that we experience or how we feel at a moment, sure, but that's what I think is masculinity and femininity is more of a spectrum.
It's not the last expression. Obviously, the last expression is all the labels that we add to ourselves, right?
I would
And
agree with
don't you
that.
think the journey is stripping away all the labels and getting down to
Yes.
brass tacks? Like, you are spirit, you are a body of energy here to express yourself
Yeah.
and to do good for mankind.
No, I love all that. I would absolutely agree. I like the saying, people like, do we have a spirit? Like, no, you are spirit. You have a body. I'm
Yes.
a big fan of that.
Yes. Me too.
That speaks to me. That resonates. And I think
But
that's
my point
absolutely
was,
true.
it's a distraction, just like everything else, just like religion and politics is trying to keep us away from discovering who we are from the inner work.
You didn't say this, but this is what I was thinking. So I'll share it and you can tell me if I was, going the wrong way and you did or didn't agree. But there are a lot of those studies where it's like, regardless of being male or female, if you were to condition from, from birth a different way, that they would show up differently.
Yes.
I disagree.
Okay.
Some of the studies that I really enjoyed were where they were taking these very young children and they were giving them the boy toys versus girl toys.
Uh-huh.
And it might have been Dr. Dobson, who is a Christian guy, but
I know the study.
you know
I
the
know
study
what you're
about
talking
the
yes,
trucks.
Yes.
The trucks. I thought it was great.
Yes. Yes.
And it's like she wraps up the fire truck in a blanket, and she's like, "Yeah, it'll be okay, little fire truck."
Beat that out of them.
Why would you want to?
I know exactly. I don't want to. I'm just saying, let them be. But I think society has done a great job at telling us how we're supposed to show up in the world, what we're supposed to look like.
Oh, I hate the supposed tos and the shoulds. Yeah.
Well, me too.
Yeah. I think we're saying the same thing, just a different way.
That's the point. Yes.
Yeah. No,
we're
absolutely.
Meant to be freely expressing ourselves.
Yeah. I don't want somebody else to tell me how I should show up in the world. But I do feel that there's also an opportunity for us to lean into. I don't know. I think there's some definitely design in this, and
what do you think the design is?
I think the design is.
What do you think the purpose of life is?
I think the purpose of life is to figure out your purpose. I do follow the dude that does the Bashir, where like
yes, love him.
So good. Something I just saw today and shared with a friend. So he was in his Bashir jam, and he was talking about how life does not have meaning, and that's what's amazing is we have the opportunity to create the meaning,
yes,
and that all the things that we are experiencing are neutral.
Yes, we're the ones that label it good or bad.
I love that, and so that definitely resonated with me. So I don't know if that's if we were thinking the same thing, or that's even what you were talking about, but the more I live and experience and think and reflect, the more I feel that that's absolutely true. Is the more I learn about brain science and what our brain does, and I realized we are not our thoughts. We are the observer of our thoughts.
Yes.
And that our brain is a meaning-making machine.
Yes.
And that it is, I don't know what the actual order is, but step one is to keep us alive, right? Yeah. Do all the functions that, keep us going. And then it's, the survival mode if we need to do something to protect ourselves, right? Like our brain and our functions do that. Next is to kind of create meaning, observe patterns. It has all of these order of functions that it's doing, and then we apply meaning to those things based upon our experiences, is what I'm assuming. Have you heard the story about the man who buys a horse and then his son breaks his leg? You hear the story? It's okay, I can't tell the story very well or super short, but the point is it's the idea of maybe it's good, maybe it's not. So this farmer ends up getting a really great deal at an auction on a horse that he needed. And so he's talking to his neighbors like, oh, that's so good. He's like, I don't know, maybe not. And then his son is riding the horse, falls off, breaks his leg. And his neighbor's like, oh, that's terrible. He's like, I don't know, maybe. And then, the army rolls into town looking for, need new recruits. Now the son can't leave because he's got a broken leg. And it's like, well, that was really good news. I don't know, maybe. And there's a couple different versions of that story.
That's interesting.
Another where the horse runs away and he's like, oh, that's terrible. I don't know, maybe. And then the horse comes back with more horses. Oh, see, it's like you don't know whether it's good or bad.
Right.
You need a little hindsight. It's also your perspective. So anyway, that's the point of my terrible versions of these stories. But when I read them, they really connected with me. So.
That makes total sense. Yeah, because we're not... When people go through shit, my initial response, I'm not sure that they appreciate me saying this to them, but I'm like, oh, wow, what lesson do you think you're learning about yourself? I mean,
a lot of people aren't ready for that.
No, they look at you like they want to smack you in the face.
I heard a therapist use this phrase that it was so good, and I forget to do it, but he would say things like, I would submit to you for consideration that perhaps...
Okay.
That's good, right?
Nope, that's a lot of words.
It's a lot of words. I'm a bit verbose.
Just to make sure you don't offend somebody, that sounds like it's... yes.
Well, if they get offended by me using a couple extra words in my attempt to not tell them they should. I don't want to shit on people.
No,
don't shit on
either.
Me. So
I don't either.
That's why I like that phrase. It is a lot of words, but it's the point is
this cup.
This cup here. So I think we're done with this one.
Okay.
The point is, it's almost like asking. It's not. I can get into coach mode real fast, and not everybody's ready for that. Sometimes they just want me to be their friend, and they don't want me to coach them.
Do you find that as a coach, I'm a life doula, I'm not a coach. I like the doula part because I'm more about your spirituality than anything else.
Okay.
Do you find that it's hard for you to be vulnerable and connect with other people? Like, do you feel like you're always trying to help them?
I feel like that's a false dichotomy. It's not either or. I'll answer each of them individually. I feel that my ability to be vulnerable with others has been growing exponentially. It started actually with, I guess it was Brene Brown's book, Daring Greatly, where she had challenged us to be more vulnerable. Funny short story. I didn't want to read this book because multiple people had recommended it for me. One of them was my ex-wife, and the other one was an ex-girlfriend. So I was like, I'm definitely not reading it now. And then once I finally did read it, I'm like, oh, they knew me so well. And I was very thankful that they had recommended it and that I finally stopped being so stubborn to read it. And I embraced being more vulnerable. I actually made it a New Year's resolution, I think it was 2017, that whenever I had an opportunity where I felt like I was going to withdraw and not be vulnerable, my challenge to myself was to lean in and to be more vulnerable and to share. And this wasn't long after reading Vishen's book, where it's just all this work that I was doing. And that was a really incredible year for me, where I connected with people on a level that I'd never had before because I was willing to be vulnerable. So No, it's to the first part of your question. The second one, or the second half, was not about being vulnerable. It was
Do you feel like you're
something
always in mode?
coach mode. Another great book that I read was Just Listen by Dr. Goulston. I'm real quick to give people advice. I think I have all the answers. I want to be the smartest guy in the room type stuff. And I realized that was my own shit that I needed to work through, of maybe perhaps feeling inadequate and wanting people to think that I'm smart or wanting people to like me. And when I remember that, I'm like, maybe people just want to be heard, want to feel understood, and don't want to be coached.
Yeah, and also you're
Uh,
denying what they have to offer you.
oh, yeah. Very good.
Like
Yes.
being sharpened by different conversations with people that, in your brain you think you're smarter than. It's actually
All
exactly what
day.
your spirit needs.
Well, even just a few minutes ago, you asked me a question, and I was like, I don't know that I agree with that, but I'm open minded to thinking differently about this. Like, that was something I couldn't have done a handful of years ago. I'd be like, no, 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 I'm right, you're wrong. Let me tell you why. And now I'm like, let's talk about
Let
that
me
more.
chew
That's
on that a
fun. Let
little
me chew
bit.
on that. And that's
See if I
fun.
have any feelings around that.
Yeah. So I
Don't you
definitely
feel
dig
like
that.
feelings tell you where you need to direct your attention?
Don't I feel like feeling? Yes. Yes. Um,
Do you
love.
feel like you started crying more since you've been on this journey of vulnerability and self discovery?
Crying more. I think my resistance to crying definitely comes from, the conditioning of being the boy, men don't cry, suck it up, soldier type stuff. So there has been some resistance to it. To answer your question, I can tell you the few times that I've actually, you know, really cried. I think there's three in the last 6 years, 7 years, three
Three?
times, three times.
You've cried 3 times in the last 6 years?
I've, I, I've had some misty
Every
eye
day. I cry every
every day.
day.
Okay. So I love movies, and I love going to the movies with my kids since they've been old enough to enjoy them. We've loved going. Um, my daughter and I just went and saw Wild Robot. If you haven't seen it, so good. Totally go see it. I should have brought some like, they were happy tears. They were like emotional stuff. I find myself, to answer your question, probably yes, with my kids watching these movies where they do such an amazing job of drawing out these emotions. So Wild Robot was incredible. Inside Out, the second one and the first one. Oh my goodness. Even like Toy Story 3, where they're all like, ah. So yes, I do get emotional, but no, like cry. There's been three times. And the most recent one, my dog passed away just a little over a year ago. I have never cried ever in my life where my eyes burned until this last time. That was the hardest cry. That wrecked me more. But what was wild is once I did it, it was done. And now when I think about him or see the Facebook memories of him, his name was Tough. I actually named my old company after him. Um, I can think about him and that memory and that experience with such joy, and I don't feel sad anymore. I feel blessed that I had as many years with him as I did. It was really incredible. I know that's a dog versus losing uh, a family member or something, but that was the last time. So that's been over a year.
So, how
Before
do you
that, yeah,
feel in your body? What does it feel like to not release tears? Do you feel healthy?
I feel like I'm the best I've ever been.
So, you don't feel like super tense or.
I don't know. Maybe this is a masculine feminine thing. I feel like I release that energy in a different way. Have you
Okay.
ever seen a thing
Okay.
about how animals shake off their cortisol?
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Oh man, this is really good. So this is a real thing about how other mammals, when they have the fight, flight, or freeze experience, and their body responds to a threat. So let's say the the gazelle is grazing, the lion strikes, but they're able to get away. Like, okay, that all of that stuff in their body builds up all of this cortisol and all of these things, all the chemicals. But then once they're done, they literally shake it off. They have that thing, and their body releases it. We as humans are, I think, the only ones that don't shake it off.
Oh my gosh.
Is this
Well, I
resonating?
may start shaking.
I
think
feel
that
like
makes
we
total
should.
sense.
So you'll see it. Like you should YouTube this later. Animals
Okay.
shaking off the cortisol. And now it's like they can go back to just living their life. Us as humans, because we have this meaning making machine, and now we're thinking about, well, why did that person do that to me? And we get in our head or have all these conversations that we don't release the cortisol from our body, and now we are drowning in these chemicals that, and breath work is another example of that. But that's why a lot of us are struggling from like this endocrine function fatigue.
Yeah.
Is because we can't release that cortisol from our body.
There is disease.
We're living in constant stress between traffic, between bills, between people pissing us off. And that's why I love coming down here in the morning and starting my day with a little reflection and gratitude and breath.
Is so fascinating about that. I think all of this regulates your nervous system, right? Yeah. Anytime you cry, anytime you shake it off, anytime you get something out, you're regulating your nervous system. And then you can be exposed to traffic, taxes, death, people that hurt your feelings, and not be affected because you're so regulated.
So regulated. I would say you're more prepared. But yeah, maybe we're saying the same thing.
I don't know that I have a lot that upsets me now. I used to be constantly triggered, ready to fight, ready to engage, ready to defend myself. Now my kids still press my buttons. I'm working on that, but that's one of the areas that is interesting for me. But now I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Human emotion is fascinating. And it's not necessarily a reflection of me. I feel fine. But when people show me their anger and they're upset, and when you watch people in traffic, it's very funny. You're like, get it out.
I'm one of those. Even the other day, okay, awesome example.
So maybe they're comfortable releasing it in ways that they think is appropriate.
No, I think they lack awareness. It's not that they're comfortable in releasing a certain way. They don't think they realize that they even have something to release. Like me, I thought people just needed to stop pissing me off. I thought people needed to learn how to fucking drive. I thought people would get out of my way. As opposed to, maybe I should have left earlier. Giving myself more time. Or maybe it's because of the patrols I was on in Iraq, and now I'm worried about getting blown up by a roadside bomb. But I'm no longer, I haven't been in Iraq in 15 years.
Right.
Why is this still? Because my body learned something. So this was a game changer for me. Talking to some system therapists, going through therapy for post-traumatic stress, realizing that the moment that was really powerful for me is when a doctor explained to me that my brain has physiologically changed. It's like it gave me permission to feel the way that I felt. And one of the ways is there's a part of your brain, was the hippocampus? No, it's the
hypothalamus in the front.
Whatever it is, the thing that
the
helps keep me alive.
Reptilian brain.
Yeah. Okay. All the thing. Normally, I would have explained that a lot better, but anyway.
We're not doctors.
Yeah.
Yet maybe I will be.
Yeah, no, that's a fun conversation for next time. It's like that book, The Body Keeps the Score, if you know that one.
Yeah.
You can't live in a place like I did for 15 months and not come back physiologically changed. Like your body is prepared for, constantly on guard to be able to defend the base that you're on or the patrol that you're in, defend your own life and your buddy's life. You're going to come back different. And recognizing how I was carrying this anxiety and this stress, and even right now in my shoulders, it's a lot higher than okay, nobody's here trying to kill me. Relax, breathe, shake it off. I spent so many years unaware of that in my life, that I was constantly on guard. And one of the places that was the biggest trigger for me outside of traffic was the grocery store. So in the grocery store, I can't see an exit. I end up in the back of this building, going down these aisles. I get in the aisle, and now there's people. It's like traffic, but now I'm trapped. And I realized it was a, a trigger for me that made me feel like I was boxed in on a patrol in Iraq. And what if I have to fight my way out of it? And until I recognized that, because first awareness, then change. I wasn't aware of why I was so angry at that, why I hated it so much. And it was a trigger when my then wife would ask me to pick something up at the store on the way home. But I'm sitting through an hour of traffic in, Houston, hating my life. And now she wants me to stop at the grocery store that's just a few, blocks away from the house. And now I'm just, I was losing my shit. And now I'm like, okay, now I learned to talk to myself. Nobody here's trying to kill me. I'm good. Breathe through it. Everything's all right. It was a significant game changer. I don't know what you were asking me, but part of it was just me learning to recognize how how our body responds, to respond. And the best thing, back to my dog Tough, I got him certified and trained as a PTSD service dog, and he didn't fix any problem. He helped make me aware of what was going on in my body before I did. So a good therapy dog, specifically for things like anxiety or PTSD, he would pick up on my behaviors or my change in behavior before I would, and he would notify me. So he could be laying here. Actually, if I was telling this story, he'd probably get up and let me know, because I got a little anxious talking about Iraq. He'd be laying there. He would pick up, he would sense my change, and he would get up. And you ever had a dog like lay their chin on your thigh? That was the way that he would notify me. And I thought he was just looking for attention. And I'm like, I don't want to love on you right now. I'm stressed or whatever. No, he was trying to let me know, hey, buddy, you're getting a little stressed. How about you relax? How about you be present in this moment? Or give me some love and attention. And that might actually help. And that changed my life too. So lots of things changed my life. But yeah, Tough would do that better than just about any dog I'd ever seen. And some dogs do this naturally. We just don't know that they're doing it. They're picking up on this change and they're responding to us. And if we learn to understand what they're trying to tell us in that way, it can do so much for us. So yeah.
Makes me think about my own dog. She's so annoying, but she's
she's
reading my cues.
She's picking up on some energy. If you just realize, if she went from doing absolutely nothing to coming and giving you some love and attention, or asking for your attention, ask yourself, did something change in me that maybe gave her that? Maybe there was nothing, but sometimes I bet there is.
Huh.
And it was wild. I would explain this to other people, friends, people I'd be dating, and they would see it, and they would see my frustration with him. Like, I'm busy, I'm trying to do it. And somebody would be like, he's trying to talk to you. He's trying to let you know you're stressed out. You need to chill out. You need to be present. I'm like, oh, so good. So even other people recognize it.
That's really good.
Isn't that wild?
Mm-hmm. It really is about being in your body. And that is a learned skill. Oh, yeah. Until you can and that's what meditation is. I tried to tell someone that the other day. It's not about sitting there and clearing your mind. It's about the process of bringing your mind back over and over again to be aware of your thoughts. That's what meditation is.
Yeah.
Just so you're aware that you're aware.
Being aware of being aware. Yeah. Yeah. First awareness, then change.
What a cool conversation. Yeah, when you told me, he said, most of my followers are women. I'm like, you think? I mean, a self-aware man, nothing sexier.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, my God. If men could just get on, if they want lots of sex, that's all you have to do. Just be self-aware.
Well,
we're no longer buying into the oh, I'm so good looking and tough. And that's uninteresting, at least to me. I can't speak.
Can
for
I be
all
both?
women.
I'd really like that. That'd be my preference.
Mm,
Can't. You have to be one or the other. I think it's a false dichotomy.
no, you can be both.
Be both.
I think it's allowed. You can be whatever you fucking want to be. It's your life.
Oh,
What a great
man.
conversation. I think we're done. Are we
Think we're
done?
Let's be done.
Okay.
Ready to let's roll for number 2. We'll go ahead and end this one. We'll keep going. That'd be fun.
What are you talking about? Okay, bye.
Bye.
You're so shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, you got to confirm there. Oh, we're not done up here.
No.
We're not done.
No.
Is anybody even watching? Probably not. Yeah, they're like, oh, hey, there are people there saying stuff.
Oh,
What?
wind is too distracting.
It's